Hello and welcome to the Story Behind the Stories, your weekly look at the pages of the Neepawa Banner Press. Thank you very much for taking a little bit of your time and spending it here with us on NAC TV. I'm Eoin Devereux with the Banner Press, welcoming you to this, officially our first edition of the June show, and joined this week by Casper Wehrhahn, fellow journalist. Casper, good to have you here again this week.
Good to be here again and going over the paper before we roll into another fantastic weekend.
It's going to be kind of interesting to be going over this paper as well for this week's edition of the show, because if you are a loyal and consistent reader of the Neepawa Banner Press, if you're a loyal and consistent viewer of the Story Behind the Stories, you know last week's edition was jam-packed. 28 pages. It's the first time in a while we've had to go that large with just one section of the paper, but we had so much news to cover, so much information to share with you in that 7-day period that we just had to go big. This week, all right, we slacked off just a little bit, just a smidge. This week it's still 16 pages, but I do assure you there is still some great information in this week's edition that we're going to be very pleased to be able to share with you. But before we do that, this show, as you know, is a story behind the story, so we're going to share with you the story of the week behind all the stories. It was a bit of a slack week, as you see, with 16 pages. That means you have a little extra time to yourself, a little extra time with your coworkers, a little extra time to goof off a little bit. We had a bunch of calls out. Some of them came in. Most of them didn't come back to us in time. So what do you do to fill your days when you're done chasing all your leads? Well, you start talking about just random things. For example, who's got the best pizza in Neepawa? We got onto this conversation there last week, and we just started thinking, you know what? It's been a while since we've all collectively had pizza, so this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. On Monday, we're going to order from one place. On Tuesday, we're going to order from another place. On Wednesday, we're going to order from a third place. And we compared the pizzas of all three. I'm not going to say who did what and when just yet. Because, again, there were winners and there were losers. And we don't want to shame the losers in any way, shape, or form. So we decided, all right, since we're waiting on callbacks, we're going to order these pizzas and we're going to test them out. Our new guy, Joshua, went so far as to make up a chart with 6 different categories to decipher which pizza was the best pizza. Like I told you, this is what happens when you don't call us back, all right? We start going off on little gallivants of our own there. Now, let me throw over to you, Casper, because you were a part of this. I can't take all the blame. You were a part of this escapade here. And just your process in terms of the week that was with pizza extravaganza.
Well, of course, as you mentioned there, before getting into the pizza bonanza, as it were, had calls and all that put out and got some stuff done ahead of this week. And then was just kind of like waiting on some other things to come back, tidied up whatever I could already for in-progress stuff, and then otherwise it's just items I've been waiting on. So rolling to this week, you know, doing kind of looking around, seeing what events are going on, and then of course the pizza thing comes up. And it's just like, okay, we're going to taste the pizzas around here. We're going to, you know, that sort of whole deal.
Yep.
And then I was very amused after coming back from lunch to see this sheet of paper on my desk. I'm like, what is this? I sit down and look at it. It's just like, oh, it's got appearance, taste, okay. Oh, this is for the pizza thing.
Toppings, cheese.
Yep, all the categories. So it was pretty amusing going into that this time around, because we have done similar stuff before, just, you know, random things around the office. What do you do, right?
Yep.
And yeah, we all kind of got into it. It was really fun, and just, you know, comparing these different pizzas from different places and seeing how each of us kind of scored them on each individual thing, and then obviously finally placed them at for overall score. And seeing, I guess, the difference in preferences for different things as well, you know, how much cheese, that sort of thing, consistency and flavor and all that sort of stuff, yeah.
You would not believe how genuinely serious we ended up taking this by the third day. I mean, we had it down. We were checking, you know, gravity deficiencies in terms of when you pick up the slice and how much it droops. We were cheese string pull, that type of stuff.
Pull, yeah.
It was really, we, quite honestly, if we'd been thinking, we probably would have written a story on it. And knowing the brilliant minds that are a part of this paper, we would have pitched to have it on the front page. But we didn't. We actually did real news on the front page, which we will get to. I assure you we will get to the actual news in a moment. But I'll just share with this, because I'm sure on bated breath you are curious as to who won what. Won't give away whom didn't win, but we will say this. There were 4 of us that were involved in the process. 2 voted for Lola's Bakery. If you're in Neepawa, you know exactly the ones I'm talking about. So 2 voted for Lola's, and 2 voted for Roeder's, which again is also in Neepawa. So it was, and the vote was so close. So what it comes down to is 6 of one, half dozen of the other. If you go from either, if you do have a preference, and there is a bit of a turf war, you know, it's a friendly type of, it's, you know, it's not like Bloods and Crips from the 90s. It's a friendly little turf war in Neepawa between Lola's and Roeder's, and they all have their loyalists. So, but you're not going to go wrong with a pizza from either one of those. Before we get to actually anything else you want to throw in there on this one, Casper?
I mean, I think you covered it pretty well. You really can't go wrong with any pizza in Neepawa, I don't think. Yeah, they all scored actually pretty closely to one another overall, I think. Which I wasn't really surprised about. Some of the individual categories were kind of surprising, but won't get into that. But yeah, it was interesting to see how things turned out.
And that's why you need to get in touch with us with your story ideas. Because when we have time to do our own little devices, this is what we get up to. So always remember, if you have any story suggestions or ideas, you can give us a call. We're going to give that number before the end of the show, and please take it down to heart. Because otherwise, we're going to start comparing like hamburgers and chicken and other, and it's going to turn into a whole thing. But that's it for this week. Now let's get to the actual news that we wanted to cover and some of the items that came back. Casper, this was a Casper-heavy edition of the paper. A lot of your leads came through, including one that you shared with us to a degree in last week's edition in regard to New Wave Neepawa and their color run.
Yeah, it was very good to get in touch with them on the results for this event. In case you missed a previous episode or a story in the paper, or if you weren't able to come out to the event, basically what the color run is a walking or running event where people were invited to wear a white colored shirt for the run. And that is because throughout the walk or run, depending what you were participating in there was different checkpoints, including at the start line of the event, different checkpoints where colored powder would be splashed at you kind of thing, and it would color your shirt. So by the end of the walk or run, you'd have your own tie-dye, as it were, shirt to take home with you as memorabilia for that. And it had a really outstanding participation. Just showing up to the event, I knew it was huge because, well, the crowd there was massive. But it was really awesome to see actually the official final numbers here, because I spoke to New Wave Neepawa, of course, and their initial anticipation for this event was, if we can get 100 people engaging in this, that would be fantastic. You want to know how many people turned up and
102.
participated? 102, yeah! Oh, there we go, nice. Well, it was actually double and more from what they're originally expecting. They got 240 people out there participating in this, and it was absolutely fantastic. I mean, an amazing response, and a good initial response for this event, because it is the first time they have held an event like this, and it sounds like they're looking forward to doing more of this in the future, perhaps an annual event from this. And I mean, that would be fantastic. It's something a bit different for the community to take part in, and it's fun for people of all ages. So very awesome to get the results from that. And of course, we have some more photos from that event that we weren't able to use the previous week in this week's paper from that. So you can take a look at those too. And I mean, there were so many smiles out there that day, Eoin.
Mm-hmm. And of course, you can find that information in this week's edition, and you can find it on the front page, some of those pictures. We decided that that was something that warranted sort of some color consideration. Last week, in terms of our color pages, we were really tight. We had so many color ads that essentially we were completely blocked out, and just had no color for something like this that really deserves it. So this week we were able to give it that consideration that it deserves, and on the front page of the paper, and as well got a little fancy with it. You'll see, that's why you got to pick up a copy of this week's Banner Press to see it up close and personal with your own eyes. We got a little funky with the font, the color, and all that on our headline there. We like to have a little bit of fun every once in a while, as the pizza extravaganza discussions earlier this show will clearly indicate. So that's what we have there, and it's always wonderful to be able to share some of the information on something of value, something that brings value to a community, such as the Color Run. Something else that brought value to their community was an event that just went a little further down the road over in Minnedosa. And Casper, you were able to get the details on this in terms of the squirrel chaser races. Is that?
Yeah. The full name there is the Squirrel Chasers XC Mountain Bike Race. So big name there, and that of course was happening down the road at Minnedosa at the Squirrel Hills Trail Park. If I remember correctly, this is the second annual event for the Squirrel Chasers, and it's put on by the Prairie Mountain Cycling Group, Minnedosa-based cycling group, in collaboration with Valley Life Recreation, who is deeply involved with the near complete, I should add, upgrades to the trailhead at that trail park. And I was able to reach out to them, get some comments on how the day went, and some of the local results for people who participated on a local level there. Some people from Minnedosa, Neepawa, and an individual from Brandon, all were able to get some placements there. So be sure to take a look at that and see who all got a medal there for first, second, third, etc. And I mean, it sounded like another fantastic event, and that was great to hear. The first actual event for this was kind of interesting as well, and I think you covered the Neepawa portion of it.
Yes.
But the first event for the Squirrel Chasers, as well as the, what was it called, Spring Fever races here in Neepawa, were actually qualifier races for the Manitoba Summer Games in 2024. So that was pretty interesting. And the people at Minnedosa, they really wanted to build on that this year, and it sounds like they really did. There's a lot of people out there having fun on the trails and off the trails too. So fantastic to hear.
It's going to be very interesting as well to see how Neepawa sort of, keeping up with the Joneses, that old mantra, in terms of what we do with our bike trail here in our competitions and races, sort of keeping up to the high standard that Minnedosa has really set in such a short period of time. I know the volunteers and everyone involved here at the Back 40 trail and the competitions that they have here always pride themselves on really putting a well put together, well organized, and a fun event. Last year's was a perfect example of that, the one that I covered last time out. So it's going to be very interesting a little further into the season to see what Neepawa is able to do. And hopefully they're maybe able to take a few ideas or thoughts from what Minnedosa has been able to do in its second sort of stab at this type of event and see how we're able to evolve from there. So if you want to find out a little bit more about Minnedosa's event, you can find that on page 2 of this week's edition of the Banner and Press. Always remember, you can find the Neepawa Banner and Press physical copies in 30 different communities throughout western Manitoba. And if you're not able to locate an actual physical in-your-hand edition, you can always find it online at mywestman.ca and neepawabanner.com. So if you just punch those into the Google machine, it'll pop up there. So, all right, we're going to talk a little bit about something that is going to be further elaborated on in our next edition of the Neepawa Banner and Press, but we just wanted to preview it to a degree to let you know it's happening and share a little bit of perspective on it, because respectfully, the collective didn't do that great of a job of getting the message out there for this. So we are very, very happy to be able to help. So hopefully you'll be able to be a part of this if you live in Neepawa. Now what I'm alluding to is that they are having a meeting on Tuesday, June 10th. I gotta do calendar in my head right now. I believe June 10th is going to be down at the Yellowhead Center, at the Yellowhead Hall. There's going to be a committee. The local rec committee is going to be talking about the future of rec and event facilities in Neepawa and for Neepawa and the surrounding RMs. If you live in Neepawa, you know that they've done the best they can with the circumstances they have in terms of the Yellowhead Center, over 50 years old. The curling club, several decades old. They've done the best they can with those. And other types of things that are needed. But those expiries are coming to a close, if not past already. Anyone who has spent some time in the Yellowhead Center knows that they've done a good job with it. They've upgraded it as best they can, but there's only so much you can do with a facility that is over 5 decades old. They need to start planning for the future. And that's what this meeting that's going to be happening on Tuesday is all about. They plan on sharing a little bit of information about what they're entailing, what they think needs to be done for Neepawa as well. This is the most interesting thing. They're expected to include an announcement of 4 potential locations where a new regional recreation event center could be constructed. Now, I want to be very clear on this. Very clear. This does not mean that we are putting a shovel in the ground next week. This is where we're at, this stage. If we proceed with this, these are the 4 locations we think would be optimal for a growing and developing community such as Neepawa to put these things. And I'm going to be very interested in seeing what information they share at this event. If you are a loyal and consistent viewer of the show or reader of the paper, you know my personal thoughts on this. I think they've done a great job with the Yellowhead, the best they can under the circumstances, but we are in need of a new facility. Now, I know we are not going to get something as shiny and as pretty as what just occurred in Steinbach, that beautiful facility in Steinbach that's got about 2,500 seats. It is a palace. If you've seen pictures of it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm not even talking about some place like Portage la Prairie or even Verdun. Quite honestly, I wish we had an arena and an event center like Verdun. That thing is fantastic for a community that size. But they built that about 15 years ago before construction costs went sideways. To build something like that here in Neepawa now, at least double what Verdun actually put in there. Because Verdun spent about 18 million, if I remember correctly, about 18.5 million. And if you've been down to Tundra Oil and Gas Center and you look around it, they got every single penny's worth out of that 18.5 million. You just got to go down the road right now to Minnedosa and see what they were able to put together for about, I think it was about 10 or 11 million. And I'm not disrespecting Minnedosa's facility. It is a beautiful facility, but it is not on the same level as Verdun, nor should it be. You know, different communities have different needs, and the needs in Minnedosa are very much what they were able to get. and it's a wonderful facility. And hopefully Neepawa is going to be doing some type of planning for the future, because we need to. Because quite honestly, one of these days, we're going to go down there, and we're going to try and open up the doors to go in, and the doors aren't going to be there. They're either going to be locked, or it's going to be, whatever. We can't rely on volunteer-run facilities that much longer, because quite honestly, volunteers start to get tired. And what's going to happen then? I don't know. So we got to figure out a plan and start moving on it. And that's what this meeting on Tuesday is all about. I've prattled on a little bit long enough on this one. Is there anything you want to throw in there on this, Casper?
Yeah, sure, a little bit. Obviously, as much as it's all perspective right now, I'm kind of anticipating this to be a pretty interesting meeting, and I'm curious where it's going to go. Of course, as Eoin mentioned, any sort of new developments in this line of building is not going to be cheap. That's just the reality of it. But it'll be interesting to see sort of what locations are being thought of, or if there's any potential, well, I highly doubt there is at this point anyway, potential blueprints for what is maybe kind of wanted. Who knows, they may surprise me and maybe they will have some blueprint ideas. This is something that's kind of been discussed, at the very least in the office, for quite a while. Not too sure about the wider community, but just things in terms of, new facility would probably be really good. Obviously, we've done really well as we can with what we have right now, especially considering the age, particularly of the Yellowhead, and doing as best we can with that. But, of course, things age out, and you can only do so much with an older building. And so, just keeping facilities like that available in the community is very valuable, and making sure that they stick around for a long time. Because, there's different extracurricular activities for all sorts of different age groups, and that's really important to have. It's something that students can use as well. I know when I was going to school, we had different activities for gym class that we would always go over to the Yellowhead for and use the rink in different ways, whether or not there was ice in there. Because, there's all sorts of sports you can do in there.
What's interesting is the concept of 365. And when I say that, I mean being able to use a facility year-round. People talk about it would be wonderful if we had basketball courts that could be used year-round. We have a walking track that might be able to use for individuals year-round. Pickleball courts, that's something that's become very popular year-round. Convention center type facilities to hold banquets. Something similar to the Yellowhead Hall, but a little bit more modern, a little bit bigger, a little bit more developed in terms of what you can do in there. And a larger space as well, I've heard, in terms of events and clubs like the gymnastics club, for example. They're squeezed in the Yellowhead Hall, and they do all their stuff in there. And I've heard talk in the community of it'd be wonderful if we were able to get something like that, its own little space. That way we can use the hall for more things. We can rent it out for more events type things. But it's a very delicate sort of balance right now with the Yellowhead Center. So hopefully you're going to go down there on Tuesday. I'm going to give you this information because unfortunately they haven't done the best job of getting the message out there. Putting a post on the Yellowhead Center calendar and just expecting people to be checking on that in the middle of summer, not the best idea. Not the best way to get the word out there. And putting it on Facebook and getting 2 comments and 3 shares, not the best, In the very least, I'm not saying advertise in the paper if you don't want to, that's fine. But at least put up a flyer or 2 over by the post office, a couple different places to help get the word out. That's why I want to get the word out here. It's going to be on Tuesday, June 10th at the Yellowhead Center. More specifically, I believe it's going to be happening in the hall. It's set to begin at 7 p.m. If you live in Neepawa, if you live in the surrounding RMs, because this does affect you too. This is a regional concept we are talking about. Get down there, learn a little bit, and hopefully share a little bit in terms of what you'd like to see from a facility, maybe in the future. We only got a few minutes left, so we're going to very quickly skim over one other item. I'm going to mention this in passing. Had a chance to speak with a new counselor over at Grit and Growth Wellness. She's working out of Neepawa and Erickson. Grace Rosen, a new practicum counselor over there. I'm not big on these types of feature stories myself on a personal level, although I am pretty good at them. And this is, I think, a pretty good example, sharing some of her details, her perspectives on what it means to her, this field, and what she's able to bring to it. I want to very quickly, I hate to skim over that, but we only got so much time. I want to talk about this one very much. Casper, you got this story about some individuals over at the Plumas Inn. They're really doing something nice for the community.
Yeah, so this is something that's actually been going on for a while, but only really caught wind of it recently and was able to sit down and have a bit of a conversation with the ownership of this facility about what they're doing. This is in regards to the Plumas Inn, and they've actually been providing groceries for the community, and this is really an important story because this comes after, of course, the tragic loss of the Plumas Stop and Shop, which very necessary for the community. They were a grocery provider for the community, I believe the only grocery provider.
Yep.
And that had sadly burned down this year, I think around March 2nd. The owner I spoke to, Ravi, he was actually over in India at the time, but happened to hear about what had happened. Got in touch with the owner like right away, was making sure that, as quick as possible, some essentials could be available for the community. And that's continued there. They've kind of built upon that and have been continuing that since. And when I asked him, what sort of inspired you to step up and do this for the community, he was like, well, I have some experience in this kind of thing, and I've always, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, I've always, served communities since I was pretty young, and I just thought, why not? Why not put this forward if I can be of any help? So definitely get acquainted with that story on page 8, hear a bit about that, and give them your support if you're able.
There's so much more we could have talked about in this half hour, even though it is only 16 pages. We did sort of go on with the foolishness of the pizza for a while, but that's what the story behind the stories is all about, is sharing behind the scenes with you. But always remember, if you have any story suggestions or ideas, we do appreciate it. And you can always get in touch with us, either by phone, by giving us a call at 476-3401, or email at news@neepawabanner.com. Your story ideas and suggestions are always appreciated. We try and get them as a timely a manner as possible. Sometimes we got to hurry up and wait on some of these things, but we do try and get them, and we do appreciate your support. So Casper, once again, thank you as always. I mean, you really did a lot of the heavy lifting in this week's program. Appreciate it.
All right, well, thank you for having me again, and looking forward to another one.
And again, thank you as always for being a loyal reader of the Neepawa Banner Press and a loyal viewer of NAC TV. We appreciate you on all those fronts, and we hope to see you again next week. Have yourselves a fabulous weekend.